We have been talking about changes to ticketing systems for, I believe, the better part of a year. I think it's been 9 months. Well, it's February 22nd on this article right here. But Blog Mickey originally presented this rumor in which you could see airline-style variable pricing, dynamic pricing, come to the domestic parks. Now, it's already there at Disneyland Paris. But the rumor was that was going to come here. We'll explain all of what this means here in just a second. But unfortunately, it is confirmed by Hugh Johnston, the CFO of the Walt Disney Company. This by Blog Mickey, confirmed Walt Disney World and Disneyland to debut airline-style dynamic ticket pricing, November 20th, 2025. And speaking at the Wells Fargo Technology, Media, and Telecom Summit, Disney Senior Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer Hugh Johnston confirmed that Disney is working to bring hyper-dynamic ticket pricing to Walt Disney World and Disneyland. Johnston's comments confirm February 2025 reporting by blogmickey.com that said that Disney was, quote, looking to bring highly variable ticket pricing structure that will be similar to airline tickets. Disney CFO Hugh Johnston said that Disney is working on bringing, quote, dynamic pricing to the domestic theme parks. These comments came as the discussion turned to yield management and strategies that Disney employs to maximize profits. Of course, Johnston begins by talking about how Disney works to generate incremental revenue. Indeed, the first step of Disney's model is generally things that guests are familiar with. Higher ticket prices on more popular days to visit, the ever-increasing price of a Mickey ice cream bar, lightning lane skip-the-line services, and ever-increasing costs of a Disney t-shirt. However, the story doesn't end there. In fact, the story began not in February 2025 when we first wrote about the plans to introduce dynamic ticket pricing, but back in November 2024 when Disneyland Paris introduced the airline-style ticket pricing model. So let's go ahead and go over how exactly this works and how this is different from the current variable pricing model that Disney has implemented for, I think it's like something like 10 years. But here you go. This is Disneyland, right? And Disneyland, just to keep things simple, Disney World is a little bit more complicated, but Disneyland, you have 7 different tiers of pricing, right? And so it goes from tier 0, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, tier 5, tier 6. That's your 7. And depending on the day that you actually go, it's going to be one of those tiers. And that calendar is basically set out in advance. You can see right here for like November 20th, for example, you have 169. I think that's tier 3 or tier 4. I can't remember. And then obviously it tops out at the end of December with $224. That would be a tier 6 ticket. And not all of these days are the same in terms of what they offer. So some of your cheaper days will have less hours, less entertainment opportunities, etc. While your more expensive days will have longer hours, more entertainment. And how this all kind of works is because those days tend to be higher, there tends to be less people there as people value the cheaper days. Here's how this airline style ticket process would work. Okay. So remember I told you that calendar was all set out in advance, right? So you look here at, let's say the 12th of December, and it's 169 right now, as you can see on the calendar. Well, what if so many people book that specific day that Disney says, oh, we're just going to go ahead and move it up to 184 or 199 or 224. Maybe, this 5th of December right here at 184, maybe that's not a huge day for them. So in order to book out that day, maybe they set it to 169, 149. So you might be thinking or be paying initially for a higher tier, thinking that, hey, I'm going to go ahead and get on the ground floor of a day that I think is going to be a higher price, but with lower amount of people there, well, they're just going to go ahead and dynamically change that price in real time. And that is the big crux of this whole thing. Culture, I want to go to you. Incremental revenue. You've been talking about it for years. What are your thoughts on all this?
Well, as I've said all along, I hate it. And it's been, the way of the world, or the direction that all these, pinheads have been headed, these spreadsheet warriors, that don't really understand what the value is of the parks. the value to them is how much money they can extract from guests rather than the experience that the guests can take back home with them, and not just in the form of memories or anything else, but in the form of stories that they can talk with other people about, to promote, to be ambassadors for the parks. It's hard to be an ambassador for a Disney park when part of your experience is being trapped on a monorail for an hour trying to get from Magic Kingdom back to your hotel. It's that's not an ambassadorial experience that you want to take back. And these kinds of strategies that have been envisioned by the company for such a very long time now. Now that they're going to be able to realize them, that's not something that's going to go home well in the form of a story. Like, oh my, yeah, we were trapped on this monorail with these screaming babies for, the better part of 45 minutes, just trying to get back to our hotel room. That's not a story you want to take home with you. And the bigger problem is what you mentioned during the course of that is how can we exploit maybe a lower or a down attendance park day if we're the
Right.
park system. Oh well, we're just going to in real time change access to this park, change prices to this park, and also in real time maybe even change the price of an ice cream bar. I find all of this deeply disturbing, but at the same time unsurprising. It's something that they've been talking about, is to control the entitlements on your wrist, because remember that's where this originally was headed, to your Magic Band. In real time, whether or not you were looking at your Magic Band or not, whether you were looking at your connected electronic device, your phone or tablet or whatever at that exact time, and hey, you've got the notification. This was something that they did for a little while. You've got a notification. Hey, there's this special opportunity for an extra $12. You can do X, that would pop up on your phone. Now, that didn't really take off. It could have. They had some ideas around it, like, hey, extra special, not lightning lane. I forget what they were calling them at the time, but this will get you on this attraction this much faster for an extra, X number of
Right.
dollars. And like I said, this has always been this new generation of money grubbers, wet dream that is, now being realized by the likes of Hugh Johnson and all these other, folks that are there to exploit their guests rather than to entertain or enthrall their guests. And
That's
again,
totally true.
I've been very negative about this since the very beginning. The idea that that this was coming to a park near you was always disgusting, and I thought that if anyone was going to rebel against it, it would have been the California types in SoCal when it made it to the SoCal markets. But they just haven't risen up the way I anticipated them to do. Now, mind you, it'll definitely be tried out in Florida first, but
Right. Yeah. Well,
when it makes its way to California, will there be a rebellion? I don't know. What surprises me is it's not happening already globally when they introduce these ideas, because anybody who's paying attention knows what the next step is in any of these things. It's always a step too far in the wrong direction, and they've been doing it ever since they introduced, the changes to FastPass. FastPass, switching from legacy to what we have now, that's just become rife for exploitation, and we're it's not ending anytime soon, especially if they're now going to, change the price of your tickets, for the following day, or maybe, a couple of weeks from now, or maybe the same day, like somebody else is going to pay less than you to get into the park. Your entitlements remain the same, but maybe they're paying less because there was more availability and they didn't fill the park enough to justify the staffing levels they needed to maintain. There's a lot of things going on here that I find
Yes,
distasteful.
and it gets even more devious with all of this, because back in February, and I tried to get the article before the show, but I unfortunately I couldn't. But back in February, the Orange County Register actually published a quote from Disney, because they faced huge criticism and huge pushback the first time that this was rumored. As you know, Blog Mickey publishes that article. I believe we publish an article as well on that Park Place talking about it. And they faced tremendous backlash. And they said, and I quote, Disneyland and Walt Disney World have no immediate plans to move to a dynamic pricing model similar to Disneyland Paris. That's what they said. What is it? Is it 9 months ago now?
Yeah.
And now they have completely taken it about face. This is why, if you're seeing the title of this video, they backtracked on what they actually said before, and it is obviously predictable. And they know there's going to be backlash to this, because Hugh Johnson was quick to point out here that we will do it in a way that doesn't create guest experience issues or consumer negative feedback. And in Paris, we haven't seen these, so they're gonna implement this system in a way that's obviously not exactly transparent, but in a way that mitigates negative feedback, because they are sure to get hit with it. Now, Culture, here's the other thing too about this, right? Because I talked about how on those lower days, you don't get as many entertainment offerings, and you don't get as long as of hours, right? But think about this. Let's say a price were to precipitously drop for a day. Let's say it's that 184 that we were talking about on December 5th right there. And we know that 184, you're probably looking at a midnight closure for that, and you're probably looking at multiple parades, fireworks, all of that. But what if it drops to such an extent that Disney says, you know what? The hours aren't going to be as long for that day. Maybe you paid it the 184, but now it's 149. Well, maybe we close at 11, or maybe we close at 10. And those entertainment opportunities like fireworks, for example, we're just going to take those out, so you're going to just get projection shows. I mean, this is really what could come about as an unforeseen complication that would be negative in guest feedback right here, that I'm sure Disney is looking to implement in order to cost cut even further. Go ahead, Culture.
No, but I'm with you. Your what ifs are more like this was likely to happen. I mean, they're not there. This is the problem with Disney now. It's like you take the worst case scenario. That's likely what you're going to get. And that's not a positive guest experience. I mean, I personally have had like the Disney comes in at the lowest common denominator every time, instead of coming in at, exceeding expectations like they're supposed to, like they claim to aim for. It's a real problem, and I'm worried about it.
Worried about it too, and for travel agents like theme park, I mean, how do you even deal with something like dynamic pricing?
Oh man, I feel I mean, I can't even imagine what the travel agents are having to deal with right now. I mean, and especially when you're going to have dynamic pricing arguments. You're going to have people calling you mid-trip going, "Hey, none of my trips going the way that, we'd planned." I mean, if you're working as a TA and look, as Theme Park Wizard, I weep for you guys, because I know what it takes to help people have a great, adventure. And it just, I can't even imagine dealing with that side of the, like people like not getting what you'd planned together with them. That's got to be a pain in the butt.
I hate this. I hate even the thought of it. I was never a fan of variable pricing to begin with. I remember, back in the day, it used to be one ticket, one price, and those obviously would go up every single year or so, but at least you know what you were expecting. And hey, if you go on the weekends, maybe there'll be more people there, but you're getting the same price as like a random Monday or random Tuesday. Now that's no longer the case, and sometimes that has a positive effect, sometimes it has negative effects. But hyper dynamic pricing, hyper variable pricing, it's just this company cannot help itself. And to be honest, folks, they can't, because their movie division is and their streaming division is sucking every single dollar out of this company, while they pay down $40 billion in debt as well. Ugh! I hate it. I don't like it. But coming to a theme park near you, hyper dynamic pricing.
Thanks for watching That Park Plays News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.